You boys got blue one on fishing, here we go. Get your cameras ready. We're gonna do it again. He's right here.
Over here, go on, blue marlin, blue marlin, blue marlin.
Oh, yeah, baby. Good teaser. Reload it.
You can tell that these marlin are angry. They want to kill and stun everything that they see.
Let's go. Double header, we got one. Let's get the other. Woo!
KDC Sawyer with Sport Fishing Championships, sitting here with Damon Sacco, tournament director of the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic in Falmouth, Massachusetts. Damon, how long have you been directing this tournament?
Hey, Katie. So this will be our 11th year since the tournament's inception.
That's awesome.
So
and you've been
I've been here since day one.
Awesome. Very cool. Tell us a little bit about the structure of the tournament. You have a set amount of days that these teams can fish, but the teams can only fish a certain amount of days within that window, correct?
Correct. So basically it's a 4-day fishing format. So basically the boats can choose 2 out of the 4 days to fish. And we did that because of the weather up here. Like this week, for instance, we actually had 3.5 bad days of weather. They went out in a good, in good conditions, and they got a good solid half day of crystal clear, flat calm conditions. Then the wind picked up, and then the rain came. And as you'll see in the footage from the weigh station today wasn't so nice. But we did get enough fishing in. The boats did catch fish. The guys had fun, and that's what it's all about. But we did go to that 4-day format because of the weather up here. It's very erratic, and it changes hourly. So
it can be really unpredictable in the Northeast Atlantic. I know that the weather, when I was looking at the forecast, it was saying that it was set to blow 19 to 33 knots today in the afternoon offshore, and 7 foot at 7 seconds. I know I saw some 8-foot seas there for a little while. That's got to be really challenging for you as a tournament director, because you call the shots. I'm sure that you've got a lot of pressure from the team saying, hey, let's extend the window in which we can fish because the weather looks bad. Is that something that you have to deal with? And how do you make those decisions when you do?
yeah, no, good point. We deal with that all the time. For this, for instance, this year the guys wanted to leave early. They wanted to leave a day early, but the problem is logistically that's impossible because I have people coming in from out of town, out of state. Some of these boats are, from New Jersey, from New York, from Rhode Island. And so it's impossible to let the local guys go when some of the out-of-town boats haven't even gotten here yet. So what we did do this year was we let the boats leave 4 hours earlier. So I got everybody registered. We had our registration kickoff party in Falmouth. And then this tournament's kind of unique in that we allow boats to leave from any port. So we have a tournament app that determines their GPS location. It does a timestamp and GPS location. So when they declare their trip, they hit the start button on their phones. We can see where they are, and as long as they're at the dock, no matter where they are, they have a range, circumference that they have to abide by. But they can leave from any dock. So we had guys leaving from, right from the registration area, and we had guys leaving from Rhode Island. So they had to drive home, and we wanted to give everyone enough time to come to the captain's meeting and then get back to their boats so they could leave. And everyone left at 8 p.m. instead of midnight this year.
I mean, that seems like a really good way to work around this weather window. I know you had, I believe, 59 teams registered in this event. Did all of those teams fish for the Wednesday, Thursday weather?
No. So, and actually we were going to have probably 70 boats. We have a small boat division, and we had a lot of guys watching the weather, and I got my phone was blowing up on Tuesday, and there were people just bowing out, and they were waiting, to basically see what the weather forecast did. And it did a 180. It literally changed from light and variable for 2 days to just 4 days of wind. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. But anyways, I'm not a meteorologist, and I would never want to be one, but I have to play that role for 4 days, and it's not easy. And I hate doing it. It's an important role, and I never, ever want to have to do it. I would never want to do it for a living. But anyways, nobody likes to be wrong. And you know what? I actually believed that they would get enough fishing in to make it happen, and they did. And thank God they did. And everyone made it back safely. And everyone had fun. It was challenging though to do the weigh-in in the rain today. Like we had a big crowd cheering and boats backing in, and it was great for the first like 7 boats. And then the rain came and it started dumping on everybody, and I had to like hide the microphone and put my speaker away, and then it was like
Oof, yeah.
crickets. And I felt
Yeah.
bad for those guys because they came into like a ghost town, But what are you gonna do?
What are you going to do? At least the weigh-in's open. They get a chance to weigh in. And more than the rain, like, I mean, with wind ripping the way it was, that's got to be really challenging for these boats to come into the weigh station, especially with a lot of other boats around, boat traffic, people watching, observing. Does wind play a key role in your marina where you're at right now?
Yes, no, absolutely it does, and it makes the weigh station challenging too, because boats have to back into not a super tight space, but it's tight enough, and there are other boats involved. So now you got like 8 other boats that you could crash into while you're trying to weigh your fish. So I allowed guys this year to dock their boat in the harbor and drive their fish over in a truck. We've never done that
nice.
in the. I've actually been running tournaments for 20 years. We've never actually. I think we did that one year, but it wasn't for weather. It was another reason. But usually we don't have to do that. So you got to get creative, like you mentioned earlier. You have to get flexible and just kind of make these decisions last minute to accommodate for stuff like this.
Yeah,
Because you want it to work.
100%. 100%. I think it's really great that you made some adaptations, however last minute they needed to be, so that teams could fairly get their fish and safely get their fish weighed in. Because I think what a lot of people don't recognize or even realize is that this sport is extremely dangerous. It is a dangerous sport, and when we're talking about these weather conditions in this tournament window, it can really be a question of life or death. These decisions have a lot of weight on them. Do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, because you're going. I mean, up here, our fishery is pretty unique that because it's so far away, it's I think some of the best offshore fishing in the world, but it is a 70 to 100 mile run. So that's why it's unique in that aspect, but it's also unique because of the multitude of species you get out there. But you got to realize when you're running that far away from civilization, like there's no even a rescue helicopter would take an hour. It's you're out there, so you really have to be careful and cognizant of the weather and the sea conditions. Luckily now we do have technology and weather forecasting technology where we can really keep a close eye on things ahead of time, especially with all the satellite technology that's out there, and Starlink is huge for boats to be able to access the internet and really keep a close eye on the weather changes, because they've been happening quickly and a lot lately. Unreal,
Quickly and a lot. Like we already touched on how it can be so unpredictable out there with these teams fishing so far from shore. Like you said, even a rescue helicopter is a difficult way to get saved. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong and so many different elements in a search and rescue mission when the conditions are as difficult and challenging and dangerous as they've been this week. So I'm really stoked to hear and happy to hear, relieved to hear that your teams have all come back safely. Do you have anyone that's going to be fishing in the next few days?
So we did have, I believe, don't quote me for sure, but I think it was 7 or 8 boats that came in yesterday that are planning to fish because they made the deadline. So in my tournament, you have to make a 5 p.m. deadline on your first day. So, you go out, say, on a Tuesday evening at 8. They had to be back Wednesday by 5 p.m., checked in, site verified by our committee boat at the weigh station. And if they did that, that would allow them to then fish another day. So unfortunately, the weather went, south today, and tomorrow is going to blow too. But it's supposed to clear up and actually slow down wind-wise on Saturday. So a lot of guys are thinking or hoping that they can leave, and I'm going to allow them to leave at 8 p.m. on Friday as well, just to level the playing field.
Staying
right?
consistent.
So they're going to be able to keep it consistent. Those boats are going to be able to leave at 8 p.m. on Friday and go and hopefully fish Saturday. And so the tournament really is still wide open as far as I'm concerned, weather permitting.
I mean, we've talked about it being unpredictable. Who knows? It could be unpredictable for the better on Saturday. So knock on wood. I hope that's the case. What about fishing wise? What are we seeing? What brought into the weigh-in, and what kind of catch reports have we been getting?
So basically, the tuna fishing has been really good. We've had a lot of big eye, like more than we've seen in several years. I've had tournaments in the past where the big eye fishing was outstanding and every boat caught big eye, but that's unusual. This year, I would say every boat had big eye bites, a lot of lost fish, a lot of heartbreaks. I haven't seen a swordfish weighed yet, so I hope we do see that by Saturday. But there was a lost fish that happened. Someone lost a swordfish right at the boat. But there was some really big eye taken. I think we had a 235 weighed in today, so that's in the tournament
Nice.
leader. Yeah, that's in the leading position now. And then several fish in like the 160 pound, 170 pound range. So the tuna fishing great, but the bill fishing not so great. Only 3 marlin seen so far, and we have a lot of good fishermen that know how to bill fish up here and that fish this tournament, and a lot of good teams and some good guys that came from the south just to fish for billfish, and a lot of those boats didn't even see a marlin. They didn't even get a marlin bite, which is unusual because usually we have a very good marlin fishery up here, especially
Y'all
this
really
time of
do.
the summer.
Y'all have a great marlin fishery. I think that a lot of the teams, you touched on how the teams that you've got fishing, you've got some marlin teams. And I think what a lot of people don't really recognize additionally is that a lot of your fishermen, they're tuna fishermen. They're tuna focused. And when you have also a diverse portfolio on the boat, it can really provide a competitive advantage, especially in your event. Can you tell us why that is?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the guys that are up here, a lot of them have been fishing for, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That several generations of fishermen, fish this event. And the Northeast has been known as a tuna fishery from day one. When I grew up as a kid, it really wasn't known as a bill fishery because not many people ran 80 miles. Now with these, vast center consoles with quad, outboards on them, and they're 60 feet long. You can get to the canyons, in an open boat. And not to say that, most of the boats fishing are center consoles, but it's just, things have revolutionized. And so we're starting to fish more in the blue water up here than ever. 15, 20 years ago, I'd be the only boat at the canyons, running charters when I first started out. Now you could see 50 boats out there. So it is very competitive. It's exciting. Guys like the competition. That's what makes tournament fishing so fun, is it brings all that energy, all that competitive energy. Because let's face it, Katie, I don't care where you are on the planet, fishermen love to brag. I think Facebook benefits more from fishermen than anybody in the world. Fishermen
It's so
can't help
true.
themselves. Can't help themselves.
It's always a competition, and you know what? I'm winning. So, hey, what about your point system? We've got, in a lot of the tournaments we fish, we have separate divisions per fish species. But in your tournament, you have a point system that the team with the most aggregate points takes the win. Can you tell us how you set that up and how a team can garner these points?
Yeah, so basically we did that because we do have such a vast, multitude of species out there. We wanted people to have to really strategize and not just make it a one fish, lottery fish win. We wanted to make it like, hey, we got to get this and we got to get that and so you got to go get your billfish points. To win this tournament, you need to catch billfish. Can't do it alone on tuna. Even I don't care how many, tuna you get, because we have it structured so that you can only weigh so many fish in, so many, species types in. So like 2 yellowfin, 2 big eye, 1 mahi, unlimited amounts of marlin releases. But, you really need to have that aggregate, that assortment of species to win this event. And if you notice in the past, if you look at our stats, you'll see that all the winners, all the tournament winners, the point winners, have blue marlin in their catches. You got to get the blue marlin.
You got
Or
to
a
get the blue
swordfish.
marlin.
Or
the
swordfish.
swordfish. Okay, so how do you allocate your points with swordfish, with tuna, and with marlin?
Yeah, so swordfish, it's cool because if you get one 60 inches or above, which is, we don't like to see fish killed under that size limit, even though the size limit's 48. You can, in our tournament, you can weigh, if it's 60 inches or up, and you get 2 points per pound. So you can get a lot of points from a big swordfish. And we did have a boat win one year. They got a 404-pound swordfish, and they won. They didn't have a blue marlin. They
That's
had some nice
808
big
points.
eye. Yeah, exactly. And there were some people that were a little, a little upset about it. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's a hell of a fish, and it took them 6.5 hours to catch that
Oh,
fish. They caught it
gosh.
on stand up, and they caught it on the day troll. They were trolling for white marlin. They saw a white marlin they saw what they thought was a white marlin tailing, and they pulled the spread by it, and it lit up and ate, and then they realized, holy crap, that wasn't a white marlin. That's going right to the
That's
bottom.
wild. And it was
Yeah.
a 404-pound sword. That's crazy.
404 pounds. So that's what makes this fishery special up here is like you just don't know what you're going to get. You have that multitude of species, and then there's lots of them. It's not like, oh, that's a rare catch, but it happens. We get a lot of swordfish up here. We get a lot of blues, a lot of whites, big eye, yellowfin tuna, albacore tuna, bluefin tuna, mahi,
Hatchet marlin.
wahoo. I mean, hatchet marlin. The wahoo up here are huge. We almost got the world record like 6 years ago, and there's been some fish weighed in our tournament that were over. Remember, Gypsy's fish was
Yes.
over 100 pounds. I mean, so
I think everyone remembers Gypsy's fish.
Yeah, that was a hell of a fish.
It
Yep.
was.
So, yeah,
That's
it's really cool. It's
awesome.
a cool fishery.
It's a great fishery. So for anyone that's interested in potentially fishing the Oak Bluffs Blue Water Classic next year, what are some recommendations you have for them?
Just to let us know, because we'll help you if you're from out of town. We'll help you get situated, either whether you want to charter a boat and come up and fish with a team, or if you want to bring your boat up, we can certainly help get you dockage secured at like Nantucket or on Martha's Vineyard. I would recommend Martha's Vineyard just because we have a satellite location in Oak Bluffs. But there's plenty of dockage options up here, and it's a fun place to hang. It's just there's a lot going on this time of year.
It's definitely a great event, and man, the lobster rolls, they're so good. Well, Damon, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of your tournament.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for having me.
That doesn't make you excited. You need to go take up golf or something else.